So in the last chapter, we had built our mapping data flow. Let's move ahead on what we're going to do next. I want to add a sync onto our pipeline so that we take the data from the staging output and put it onto a table. I want to issue this statement of creating a table of web metrics. I can see that I already have a web metrics table in place. Just quickly drop that table and recreate this table again. So we have the table in place. Now in my pipeline, I'm going to add an activity here. This activity is to copy data. So we are going to copy data onto our table, that's onto our sync. I'll connect the activities together. In terms of the source, this source is going to be our staging output. So I'm choosing the staging output data set. I want to copy all of the JSON-based files. If I go onto my sync, create a new data set. When it comes onto Azure Synapse, this is going to be for our web metrics table. Choose my link service. Choose my table name. Click on OK. Go onto the mapping. Let me import the schemas. So it's fine. I'll just choose my columns accordingly in terms of the metric time and the metric name. So we need to have a sync in place. So I'll go on the settings, enable staging, and browse for the staging container that I have. Let me publish the pipeline. And so this is done. If you just want to understand that this works, let's trigger the pipeline. Now after this, the next step that I want to implement is, I want to, after the activity of copying the data onto the table is complete, I want to delete the files in my staging output container. I also want to delete the files which is going to be in my staging metric container. See, up to now, what I've done is I have manually uploaded this file onto my staging metric container, and then my pipeline would output a file onto the staging output container. Now, later on, when Azure Data Factory runs my pipeline, so this is the last process we're going to see, I want to make sure that it runs on some interval. It takes whatever are the added files in my insights metrics folder or container, sorry. It copies those files, or maybe at least copies the contents of those files onto my staging metric container. Then my mapping data flow would take that data, put it onto the staging output, and then the copy activity would take that output and copy it onto my table. And once this entire process is done, I want to ensure that I delete my files in my staging metric container and in the staging output container, because I don't want the same data to be copied again. This is only meant to serve as my staging area for my data. I don't want to work directly with the data in the insights metrics folder. No, I want to first copy that delta data, whatever data has been added, onto my staging metric container first. Then my mapping data flow would take that data onto staging output, and then my pipeline would take that data onto my table. And once it's complete, I will ensure that I have a clean slate in terms of my staging area. So let's wait till the pipeline run is complete. Now when the pipeline run is complete, let's do select star from web metrics, so I can see all my information in place. Right, so for now let's mark an end onto this chapter, wherein we have added a copy activity on our pipeline to take the data onto our table in our dedicated SQL pool. Now in the prior chapter, I told you that the next step that I want to implement is having the ability to delete the files in my staging metrics container and my staging output container, once the job is complete. One way of doing this is, you can actually go onto your data flow. When it comes onto the staging metric stream, if you go onto your source options, here in terms of an after completion setting, you can choose to delete the source files. So this is for the staging metric setting. For the output staging output, I want to show you another way. There is actually an activity. So if I go onto general, there is a delete activity. I'll say this is to delete the staging output. So just making use of another activity in my pipeline. In terms of my source, so I want to choose the staging output. So I can put the wildcard file path. I'll do a star.star. This is because in my staging output, if I go onto that container, in addition to my JSON-based file, and now you can see that when I'm running the pipeline multiple times, the JSON file just keeps on getting added here. So you don't want duplicate data to actually come up in your table. So we should delete the previous JSON-based file. I'm doing a star.star because I also want to delete the second file that gets generated here. Then I'll go on the logging settings. I'll just disable logging. Let me click on publish all. So all we've done now to this pipeline is you want to ensure that we delete the files from the staging metric container and the staging output container once the job is complete. Then I'll just connect the on success of copy data onto that delete activity. I'll click on publish again. And then let's trigger the pipeline, and let's wait till this is complete. Now once the pipeline run is complete, I just want to verify when it comes onto the data in my containers. So I can see in my staging metric container, I don't have the JSON file in place. And if I go onto my staging output container, I don't have any file in place. Now in this chapter, I want to go through a trigger when it comes onto your pipeline. So far, we have been manually triggering this pipeline, but you can create multiple triggers. So if I choose to create a new trigger, you can create a trigger based on different types. It could be based on a schedule. So if you want to run it based on a particular schedule in terms of a batch, right? So maybe you want to run it in the night every day, you can create a schedule in terms of the trigger. We'll be looking at something window later on. Based on a storage event, we are actually going to see this right now, and based on any sort of custom events. If I choose the storage event, so I'll just call this as the blob trigger, what we can do is we can tell this pipeline to run whenever a blob is created in a particular container. So I can choose my subscription, choose my storage account name. I have to give what is the container name, or I can just basically browse for it here. So it is my staging metric. Whenever a blob is added onto the staging metric container, please go ahead and execute this pipeline. I'll choose the event whenever a blob is created. I'll say don't ignore empty blobs. I'll give the trigger of starting the trigger on creation. You can give the name of the file. So this basically means that if you have multiple blobs in the container, what is basically the blob you want to pick up? You can say the blob path begins with. It's something that you can do, and you can hit on continue. So currently we don't have any blobs over there. I'll hit on continue again to go ahead and create this trigger. I'll click on publish and publish the pipeline. Now once the publish is complete, if I go onto my containers, if I go onto my staging metric container, I'm going to upload that blob. So the same JSON-based file, I will click on the upload button. What this should ideally do is, it should now trigger the pipeline. If I go on the monitor section, if I go on to trigger runs, you will see that we do have one now run in place. This is based on the blob trigger. So this is my current time. So now my pipeline is running automatically because we have created a trigger based on a blob being created in our container. If I go onto my pipeline runs, I can see that my pipeline is now running. It's in progress because of the blob trigger. If you want, we can quickly go ahead and just delete whatever information that we have from our web metrics table, just to confirm that this works as expected. Currently, I don't think, nothing is there. Let's wait for the pipeline to complete. Now, awesome time when I come back. So we have to go on the pipeline runs, click on refresh to make sure that the pipeline is complete. So it has succeeded. If I go onto my table, I can see my data in place. If I go on to and refresh my staging metric container, so the file is gone. So let's mark an end onto this chapter wherein we have looked at one type of trigger, and that is the storage event trigger. Okay, now just as a final now step onto looking at a pipeline, we're going to make use of the tumbling window. Before that, let's add another activity on our pipeline to copy data from the insights metrics folder or the container basically onto our staging metric container. I also want to disassociate the trigger that I have when it comes onto the blob trigger. I'll just detach the trigger, click on close, then I'll go onto the manage section, go on to triggers and delete the blob trigger, and then publish my entire pipeline again. So on the author section now, I said what we want to do is we want to now basically add an activity. So copy data activity. The success will be onto our data flow. This copy data activity should copy everything in our insights metrics folder. If I go onto the source, I'm going to create a new data set. This is going to be Azure Data Lake. Again, JSON. This is going to be our insights metrics data. Onto our link service. I'm going to go onto insights metrics. Let's drill down. I want to go onto the folder just before the start of the date, right? So just before the start of the year, I'll click on OK. Click on OK here. So saying the schema import failed, so I'll just choose none. That's because we have just chosen, the starting of a particular structure. I'll click on OK. I'll just hide this. I'll choose the wildcard, file path to choose all of the JSON-based files, and this will be done recursively. And in terms of my sync, I'm going to choose staging metric dataset. In terms of the copy behavior, what I'll do is I'll click on merge files. So what this is going to do is it's going to take all of the contents from the JSON-based files in my insights metrics container, and then merge all the contents into just one file. And then that file will be taken over by my mapping data flow. So again, just to understand the entire flow again. So just to kind of summarize, we now have an activity that's going to copy data at a specified interval. We're going to do this via the tumbling trigger in a moment's time. It's going to copy the files from my insights metrics container onto the staging metric container, has a staging area. Then those files are going to be picked up by my mapping data flow. This is output onto the staging output container. Then this copy activity will take that data from staging output and put it in my table. And then finally we have the delete activity. Let me first publish all of this, and also at the same time, I'll delete whatever information I have from web metrics, just to ensure that we have that information in place when we run our pipeline. I'll now add a trigger. This time I'll choose the trigger type as a tumbling window. In terms of the start date, I'm going to choose yesterday's date because I have the data from then onwards. You can decide on when you want to run this particular trigger, this tumbling window trigger. It will run after every 15 minutes or leave as it is. In terms of the advance, I won't mention anything, and I can start the trigger on creation. Now, what's the key difference between the tumbling window and the schedule trigger? Because they both have kind of the same setting when you have a recurrence. So you can tell the schedule trigger also, let's say, to run once in a day. But with the difference of the tumbling window, this is more attuned for looking at past data in terms of windows. So we look at windows also in Azure Stream Analytics. So there, what happens is that when you have, let's say, a sort of events have been processed, certain data has been processed in a window of 15 minutes by this particular pipeline, when it goes on to the next 15 minutes, it actually understands what data has been processed in the last 15 minutes. This is not possible with the schedule trigger. The schedule trigger just runs as a dummy trigger based on your recurrence. But the special thing with the tumbling window is it's good when you want to load delta data, and you want to look at only the delta data over a particular time frame. So you want to look at the delta data over this 15 minutes, the delta data over this 15 minutes. It's good to use the tumbling window in this particular use case. I'll click on OK. I'll publish my pipeline. And actually, once the publish is complete, if I go onto the monitor section, if I go onto the trigger runs, you will see a lot of runs actually happening now in parallel. That's because we have a lot of data within our insights metrics container. I'm going to come back after some time. Just want to wait till basically the pipeline runs are complete. Now, I wait for around now to give time for all the pipelines to run. I can see some have succeeded and some have failed. When looking at the failure messages, it just kind of indicates that, because we have so many pipelines running in parallel, working with the same container, that is staging kind of metrics and staging output, and then we have the delete files activity. So when all of them are coming together, there might be some issue where one pipeline has deleted the contents and the other pipeline cannot find it, so on and so forth. And this is only happening because I've told it to kind of run from the previous day, and also I mentioned a very short interval of just 15 minutes. So giving all this into consideration, there were some that succeeded, some that actually failed. That's fine. See, when you are building a pipeline and you're running it, you'll see whether if you have a lot of data, does it succeed, does it fail? Then what you should do in your pipeline to make sure that it actually runs successfully, if you have a lot of data that needs to be loaded. Maybe in my case, I was telling to basically merge all the files, and I was saying to delete all the files. Maybe I could say to go ahead and preserve the hierarchy from the source, maybe. So there are different ways I could go about trying doing this. But in the end, I just want to show you how you can use Azure Data Factory to go ahead and take the data from your insights metrics container. If I actually go onto my table, so I just select star from web metrics, I can see I still have around 3 million rows that got added into the table. So this is all of the data that got collected just over a day's period. So you can see so many metrics were collected just from one day. But here the entire purpose, I again want to mention is, I want to show you how you can use the triggers within Azure Data Factory and how we could take, the data from our insights container. Even now, we're looking at, incrementally taking the data. You can see that we have now a new tumbling window that's running, that's probably taking the most recent data. Right, so one mark in onto this particular exercise wherein we're looking at triggers in Azure Data Factory.